you guys, it's Karen and I'm in my kitchen today. I'm filming in here because it's such a gloomy day in Scotland that trying to film in my studio is impossible because my LED lights are just not enough. There's not enough light coming through the window. And here I've got the patio doors that go out to the back garden, so that's good. I'm here to tell you about my favourite foundations of 2022, of which I have 4. I've got 2 higher end and 2 drugstore ones. And then I'll tell you about the other foundations that I have that I'm not actually keeping and why, or not repurchasing and why. I don't think I've found any new foundations in 2022. Hello? Did you hear that? That door just clicked open. Ooh, don't like it when it does that, especially when I'm here on my own. Okay, regain composure. I'm not going to shut the door, I'm just going to leave it. If that's you, Dad, come in, but don't say anything, please. Film it. Oh, I was saying that I haven't tried any new foundations in 2022. I think these were all available before. I think, maybe not, you'll maybe correct me on that. But most of them are new to me. It's just because I've really enjoyed using these foundations. I have had no need to go looking for another foundation. And it was a very different story when I had oily skin. I would say that my skin is normal to dry at the minute. And that's a really nice place to be. I never thought I would have anywhere near normal skin. You know, I normally, normal for me was extremely oily. Like I was blotting my skin every hour. No foundation lasted on me. So at that kind of time, I was always looking for a new foundation that promised that it was going to stay on and, you know, no breakthrough and all of that. Anyway, let's get stuck into the foundations, and I'm going to tell you details of each of the 4 favourites. So, you know, range of colours, price, etc. The first one, probably not a surprise because you've heard me say it at the end of every video what I'm wearing, and I'm not wearing it today though. This is the IT Cosmetics, I'm reading the French version, let me turn it around. The IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better Foundation plus skincare. The skincare, I think, is vitamin E plus B5. I've got my notes in front of me in case you wonder why I'm looking down. Vitamin E and B5, and I think there's some hyaluronic acid in here as well. I didn't necessarily notice this skincare or buy it for that, but that's nice. This is £33, so it's one of the higher end ones, but there's a range of 36 colours, so a really big range of colours. My colour is in light neutral 22. I did originally buy another one, and this one is in 20.5. Doesn't look much difference when you put them together like that. 20.5 neutral, but it was too light. So this one is a better match for me, and this is number 22, light neutral 22. I think some people like MAC references, and years ago when I used MAC, I think I was an NC20, and in number 7 foundations, I am a Calico, if that helps anyone. So £33, 36 colours. This is a medium coverage foundation. I would agree with that. It is about a medium coverage. It is buildable, so you can build it up if you want to. And I would say that this is good for all skin types. The only thing I would say about that is now that I don't have oily skin, I can't really speak for people with oily skin, if you know what I mean. I can only tell you what I think. But I do think this would work for most people, but especially if you've got dry skin, because it's got those lovely moisturising ingredients in it. There are great reviews on this. I've looked up the reviews just to see what other people are saying, especially if there's anybody else with oily skin. And it seems to be, there aren't any bad reviews of this. The only negatives that I can find are some people say that there's not enough coverage in it. So some people think that it's not a medium to buildable, I guess. They're saying there just wasn't enough coverage for them. So if you're looking for a full coverage one, maybe not this. I like the packaging of this. It's just a little pump bottle. I should give you a little swatch, shouldn't I? So that's that one. It is a liquid foundation, but you can see it would take a long time to run down my hand. So it's not too liquidy. It's somewhere between a liquid and a cream, I guess. It's not a cream. It's definitely not a cream, but it's not too thin. I do like thinnish foundations though, but I do really like that one. So that's the IT Cosmetics one. Next on the list is one that was a surprise to me, and it's this one, the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage This one is £6.95 and there are a choice of 19 colours, so half as many as with the It Cosmetics, but you know, it's a drugstore range and a drugstore price. But I still managed to find a good colour in this. Mine is 008 Fair Beige. This one is a bit more liquidy than that It Cosmetics one. You can see that it drops quite easily off there and it would probably run down. Yeah, if I left it on my hand, it would run down. But it's got really good coverage. This one is a full coverage, a medium to full coverage matte. This one says that it's good for all skin types. I think it probably would be good for all skin types because I think it certainly doesn't budge. Now, I did test out accidentally this, not the smudge proof, but I guess shower proof, because the other day I was waiting for my migraine injection to be delivered and the guy phoned me and said he couldn't find my flat. And he said he'd found my flat. And he said, I'm ringing you and nobody's answering. And I was like, well, you're not ringing me because I'm in and nobody's ringing the buzzer. And I said, so you're probably at the wrong block. So trying to describe to him where to go. And I said, can you see a field? Go across that field, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, well, I'll go out onto the patio and see if you can see me there. And he couldn't. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the field. So I ended up walking out and it was raining that day and I was actually going out in the evening. So I knew that I needed my makeup to either stay on or I'd need to retouch it. And this is what I had on. And even after being rained on, because obviously I didn't go out with an umbrella or anything, my makeup was fine that evening. It wasn't disturbed in any way. So this is a really good long lasting one. And like I said, because it's matte, but it's quite thin, it doesn't feel heavy on your skin. And I think that you'd like this if you've got oily skin. But I also don't find it to make my skin tight. Some foundations, if they haven't got any hydrating ingredients in it at all, I sometimes find that it makes my skin feel tight. With this one, now I'm talking about it, because this is what I've got on today. I should have told you that first. This is the foundation I'm wearing. With this one, I can feel across here a very slight tightness, like a 1 out of 10 tightness, you know, not enough that, like, as soon as I start doing things, then I won't notice it. It's just because this is what I'm talking about, so I'm bringing attention to it. But it's not anything that would bother me or anything like that. But that may suggest that if you've got really dry skin, it might not work. This says that it's smudge and waterproof, so I know that it's shower proof. The packaging, I quite like the dropper thing. I don't like that this gets all kind of mucky, but you know, makeup's not going to look perfect after using it a lot, is it? But yeah, I think this is a really good one. And this has really, really good reviews as well. I couldn't find a bad review about this one. Number 3 is another surprise, actually. It's this RCMA makeup. You can see that I don't know whether you can see, but there wasn't any space there at the bottom. It was kind of like that, I believe. So I've used a fair amount of it. I really like this packaging, actually. I like the way that's sort of, it's thin, but it's not deceiving. Because I did have one before, I can't think who, but it was like a bottle, but then inside was a sort of, what would you call it? A sort of plastic package, you know, that just, like a pouch inside it. So that around it, there was no foundation. I don't know, and you got a lot less than you thought you did. But anyway, I ordered this one because I had seen a video or a review, I don't know whether it's in TikTok or YouTube, something like that, about how amazing this was. So I thought I would give it a go. When I first swatched it, and I chose the colour from just looking online, when I first swatched it, I was like, oh wow, that's too thick. I'm not going to like that, it's too thick. You can see that it's not a liquid one, this one is a cream one. But at least I had managed to get the right colour from online. My colour is N210. This one costs £29.50, by the way, and there are 38 colours. So it's another one with a huge range of colours, but it is a higher end one. Yeah, I thought it was going to be too thick. However, when I used it, the first time I used it, I thought, well, yeah, it is a bit thick. I just need to be careful when I'm applying it. So I need to use my beauty blender and just be careful to not put too much on the beauty blender. You know, I think that's what I did the first time. I put too much on. You only need the tiniest amount of this. And yeah, I used it for quite a while when I first got it and really, really enjoyed it. I haven't used it recently. I need to kind of use it again, but I think I've had these two foundations sitting in my makeup bag, the It Cosmetics and the Catrice, and I've used one or the other and really enjoyed them, so I haven't had any need to change them out, you know, because normally I've got my makeup bag sitting in the living room and every few weeks or so I will change out an eyeshadow palette and the foundations and some blushes and, you know, try different makeup. But I've just been loving them so much that I haven't. But I know that I enjoyed this And I mean, we'll see when I'm down to the bottom whether or not it's a repurchase, but I think it would be, because like I said, I do know when I've worn it, this has got full coverage. And what this is an Estee Lauder dupe, I would say. This one is described as full coverage, but lightweight. And I don't agree that it's lightweight. It doesn't, if you've put it on with a beauty blender and you've not put too much on, you get a full coverage and it doesn't feel heavy or anything like that, but it doesn't feel lightweight when you're applying it, you know. It's not one I describe as lightweight at all. And in fact, what I'd say this is the dupe of is the Estee Lauder Double Wear. And I used to wear Estee Lauder Double Wear. It took me a while to love it. It was one of those I needed to experiment with it. I guess it might have been around about the time I started using beauty blenders, and they really help, don't they, if you want to lighten up a foundation. And I had about 3 different colours in the Estee Lauder. One of them was, I'm sure, Cool Ivory or something like that. Anyway, this one I would say is a dupe for the Estee Lauder. So if you're looking for a cruelty-free alternative, this would be good. The reviews are good on this, really good. The only negative reviews I found were saying that it was too thick. People found it too thick. But like I said, I think if you apply it with a beauty blender, with a damp beauty blender, and you don't use too much, then you're absolutely fine. And I found that was the case with the Estee Lauder Double Wear, and some people just didn't like that, did they? I've put here that I wouldn't recommend it necessarily to oily skin, because I think it might just feel too thick. I know when I had really oily skin, I wanted something that gave full coverage but felt thin. So for a long time I used the YSL something ink, it was called. It was really liquidy, you know, and I liked really, really thin ones that felt lightweight but gave a lot of coverage. And this is not thin, it's more of a cream, it's not a liquid, and it doesn't feel lightweight going on. It's also got shea butter in it, which for me, when I had oily acne prone skin, could break me out. The final one, yet again a surprise, because I had already tried this when it came out. Years ago, I did a review of this one and the Serum Foundation, separate videos. And this is the full coverage concealer from the full coverage foundation from the Ordinary. It's not called full coverage, it's called coverage foundation. And my problem at the time was that I didn't particularly like the way it applied, and it didn't last very well for me. Like a couple of hours later, it was kind of looking patchy and whatnot. And so I never ever tried it again. But I have noticed, I said to you guys before, that over the years, my skin is really changing, and things that I used to think worked really well, like there's some foundations in here I'm going to talk about, don't work as well for me anymore. You know, my skin feels like it's changing every year. And I would say that 2022, my skin's been more normal to dry than anything else. Before that, the year before that, I felt like it was dry and dehydrated. And then probably before that, it was just oily or a combination, you know. But it's as close to normal as you can get at the minute. I never imagined I'd have normal skin. I really didn't, because I remember like people would be testing foundations out and I'd watch their videos and they'd say, you know, I've had this on all day and it hasn't budged. And I'd think, how does that even work? Because I would be blotting my skin every hour, you know, and getting lots and lots of oil off, and then putting powder on, and then blotting it again, and then more powder. I'd be lucky to get 3 or 4 hours. You know, I would have been delighted with that. So yeah, I didn't revisit this until recently. And when I first used it, I was like, oh, I actually really like the finish. I thought I was going to immediately go, no, I don't like it. This is £6.90, by the way, and it has 36 shades. So that's really good for it being a drugstore price. To have 36 shades is brilliant. Mine's 1.2N. It says that it's a natural finish, but a full cover and thin, which I would say it is. This one has really mixed reviews. It's one of those products that is, I guess, Marmite. You either love it or you hate it, or it either works for you or it doesn't. And I had a look at the reviews, and there are people with oily skin that swear by it. So it's not, because I thought, oh, I hated it when I had oily skin. Perhaps that's what's the thing, you know, if you've got normal to dry skin, it's good for you. But there are people with oily skin that swear by it. But I did a good test with this because I just can't remember if I told you or not, but I went to Cambridge a couple of weeks ago to see my birth mother. I haven't seen her for 3 years. And I got the train down, and so the travelling from end to end was probably 6 or 7 hours, something like that. So a long time. And I wanted to take something that was really light to pack. And so this is in a nice lightweight bottle with a little pump, and it's, you know, not a huge bottle. And so I was like, I'm going to take this. And, you know, if it doesn't last me all day, if it doesn't look great, oh, well, never mind, you know, we'll be sitting chatting and it doesn't really matter. So I took it with me. It was great, really great. So both train journeys I had it on. So the train journey down and the train journey back, and then the 2 days in between. And it didn't budge. And all of those days, I would say I put it on somewhere between 7 and 8 a.m. and didn't take it off again until 7 or 8 p.m. and it looked perfect. And I hadn't powdered it. I hadn't done anything to it at all. And I hadn't been doing anything major. We'd kind of had a wander around the shops and stopped for lunch and stopped for a cup of tea and did some shopping, nothing major, but it really stayed on well. So I am really impressed with that. And that will probably be my little travel foundation from now on. So love that. So those are my four favourites. I was thinking to myself earlier, which one would I choose if I had to choose one? Because when I didn't do YouTube, before YouTube, I had one foundation. It was, I think it was the Max Factor, was it called Lasting Cover, something like that. That's the one that I always used. And I had one foundation, and then when it started to get difficult to get foundation out, I would then buy another tube. And I was like, what would I choose if I had to choose one of those? I don't know. I think I'd probably go for this Ordinary one just because of how well it lasted in Cambridge. I was just so surprised, and it's nice and lightweight, it's affordable, but I do like all four of those. So on to some others. One I wanted to show you is not a favourite or a fail, I guess you would say. And it's this KVD Good Apple, I think it's called, isn't it? Good Apple. I bought this one because I think it was Angie that had talked about how it lasted really well when she put it on her nose. And so I bought it and tried it. And if I just use this, you can see I've used it right down to the pan in the middle. If I just use this as a foundation with my beauty blender, I feel like it's too cakey. But I like to use this as a kind of touching up any areas that haven't got enough coverage, or as Angie was saying, when you put it on your nose, it just seems to stay on your nose, So I've quite enjoyed just using this sort of on my nose area, if my chin's a bit red, if I've got any redness anywhere, that kind of thing. But as a foundation on its own, I don't love it, and I don't think I'll repurchase this. I've got these two Hourglass foundations, and honestly, I can't remember when I bought these. I think one of them I bought because it was on sale because it wasn't a popular colour or something like that. But they're expensive, and I would say it may be just because of the time I've had them, but when I put them on, it doesn't feel like it on there. It's starting to drag a little bit across my skin. I tried them out a couple of weeks ago and was like, I didn't really enjoy applying that. It felt just a little bit like I was, not so much like I was dragging it, but more like when I was using my beauty blender, it wasn't easily blending. I was having to work at it, and it's just not that way with my other foundations. So I don't know whether these have just dried out, which would make sense because, like I said, I've had them a fair few years, but it shows you it's one of those things, when you save things for best. I shouldn't have done that, but I knew how expensive they were, and I loved them when I got them, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to keep on buying these, and this is not going to be able to be my regular foundation, so I would save them for best, but I needed to not do that, because now I might have to throw them away because I don't see me using them. They just weren't enjoyable to use. I've still got my Lancome Tainted Oil Ultra. This, I've had this for years, obviously, because it's not cruelty free, and I had bought a backup before I went cruelty free, and I do still enjoy this, but I do save this one for best. I normally wear this when I'm going to meet my friend, actually, because I know that it lasts really well on me, and yeah, I will use that up eventually. I've got that other It Cosmetics colour. I've got this Supergoop CC screen that I don't know why I've not used this up. I keep looking at it thinking, I've put it in here because it seems to me more like a foundation. But really it's a CC screen. I don't know. I should treat it as a foundation. I should use it up, but I think it puts me off because it's got an SPF in it. It's like, well, I've already got an SPF on, so I don't know. I need to make an effort to use that, use it or just throw it away. I've got a Laura Mercier Silk Cream Oil-Free Foundation. You may remember this if you've been with me for a few years. I have worn this a lot on screen. This is in June, the colour June. So it's quite dark, but I'll show you. One of the things I don't like about it is that I can only wear this if I've got a self-tanner on, and it's day one of my self-tan. So if I put a self-tan on last night, which actually I did, I could have worn this today. Did I actually tell you which foundation I've got on? I've got the Catrice Liquid HT. I can't remember if I did or not. But I think it just looks orangey. you know, it's just too orangey. Even when I've got that self-tan on, I put it on my face. It never looks bad when I watch it back on camera, but I think, oh, that's really orangey, I don't like it. And I tried to get a lighter one so that I could use it at other times, you know, the days following when my tan starts to fade, and it was too light. So to me, it's just a colour problem with this. I do like the formula. I do like the foundation. It's quite an expensive one, but I can't find the perfect colour for me in that range. Then I've got the Bare Minerals Bare Pro. I had probably at least 3, if not 4 colours in this. This is Cashmere 06. And I think the colours were so similar. You know, I maybe had 5, 6, 7 and 8, something like that. And I just couldn't, every time I got them, I was like, that's just as the same as my other one. You know, I couldn't really tell the difference between them. Anyway, I used to swear by this foundation, but again, I think that might have been better for me when my skin was oily. And every time I've used it recently, and it is, I mean, I don't know, it's around about there somewhere because it's been lying on its side. But if I let this settle, it is about halfway down. I think I'm just going to chuck this, to be honest, because when I go through and look at my foundations, I'm like, no, I don't want to use that one, because the last few times I've used it, it just hasn't felt nice on my skin. It's felt a bit kind of, I don't know, cakey, I would say. And the final one that I have in here, I will use this up, is the Kiko Insta Moisture. Actually, there's another one that I think I've stuck in my empties by number 7, the Hydroluminous one. You guys know I swore by the number 7 Hydroluminous one, and I really liked this Kiko Insta Moisture one. But both of these I used this year a couple of times. I used them on screen and I didn't like how my skin looked, and I didn't like how it looked in the mirror either. And I don't know, I can't figure out why, because they're both hydrating ones. So it's not that it would have worked better when my skin was oily. It's just maybe because my skin's more normal. I don't know. So I'm not going to rush out and repurchase this or the number 7 one, but it may be one I look at in the future, you know, but I will use that Insta Moisture one up. Okay, that's everything for foundations. I don't know what to do with these. What can I do with these? I hate throwing things out, I really do. And I've got a whole box of makeup that I still don't know what to do with it. I do get questions from you guys sometimes asking, what do you do with your makeup? Do you sell it? Do you give it away? Well, if I know somebody that's going to use it, so like maybe my sister or my friend that I meet for lunch, or my mum, sometimes I'll send her stuff if I know that people are going to use it. Like my mum loves blushes, so I'm sending her a whole bunch of blushes. My sister is mixed race, so her skin's darker than me. So if I've got things that suit darker skin, I will send them to her. And I used to sell them, but it is not something I can do, especially while I've got these migraines, because honestly, it's a lot of work, because you have to take pictures of everything. Then you have to describe it and put the colours in and how much is left. And you know, it's normally like eyeshadow palettes, to be honest, that you sell, not foundations and things, but you have to take pictures, you have to describe it. Then you get lots of inquiries about it. You get lots of people asking what you'll take for it and if you'll post it immediately, and then you have to like try and run to the post office. For me, that's just not possible. And then you've got to get wrapping paper and, you know, parcel paper and tape, and yeah, it's just all too much. So I did, years ago, I gave it to the women's shelter, but they no longer take any kind of used or even lightly tested makeup. Then I used to send it to a place in London that was, I think it was another refuge place, but they are no longer accepting any makeup. So I wish there was a good cause I could give it to, but there's not, you know, and I've got way too much. I've got about 4 shoe boxes that I'm just keeping. And the idea was that maybe one day I'll have a big car boot sale and then give the money to charity or something like that. I don't know. So for now, I'm just keeping it in my wardrobe, unless anybody's got any great ideas as to what to do with it. You know, if I could get to the post office and whatnot, I'd probably send it to people that wanted it, but it's just not something that's easy for me to do, unfortunately. Why was I telling you that? Why did I give you that long, rambly story? I don't know. Oh, because I was saying I don't know what to do with these hourglass ones. I really don't know what to do with them. Anyway, that's everything for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'll tell you what I've got on. You know that I've got the Catrice HD foundation on. On my eyes is the Charlotte Tilbury, I think it's called Easy Eye. It's a matte little palette. On my cheeks is the Vieve blush in Pesca. And on my lips is it's a very old MAC lipstick called All Fired Up. I just fancied red today, and that's the only one I've got. MAC, I think I've got 2 MAC lipsticks. I've got 3, because I've got Mare as well. I've got Mare, All Fired Up, and Ruby Woo, and they're kind of sentimental to me. And I really wish MAC would go cruelty free, and I would be in there buying a whole bunch of stuff. But that's, I think, the only stuff that I've kept. I didn't keep the blushes and eyeshadows and stuff. But anyway, that's everything for today. I hope you guys are well. Thank you for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.